Greetings YouTube, and welcome to my next weapons build. Today we're going to be using this paddle, which is from Brazil for I think a game called Bombanijas, but I could probably be saying that completely wrong because it is Portuguese. So yeah, they'll have a clue if I'm saying it right. This is a fairly soft wood, so this is not going to be the striking surface. It would be better than nothing, but it's not going to work that well. And I like this particular paddle because it has a distal taper. It is thinner at the edge than it is up here at the handle. This is the first time I've seen a paddle type like this for like a game that has that distal taper. Most of the time it is a plywood, often rubber coated surface set into a handle like a ping pong paddle. And I've found paddles this size that were, again, two parts numerous times at thrift shops. I paid $3 for two of these, so this is a $1.50 investment. And I'm going to put these blades on the edge. Now this says $7.29. I actually got it for half that when I paid for it, so I was really thrilled. So that was a really great price. And I actually haven't opened this up to look at the holes yet, because I'm going to probably open this up to quarter 20s because I have quarter 20 bolts, and I got lots of those at an estate sale for a dirt cheap price. And again, these are cheap, and this was cheap, so this is a low cost build. Now I'm not going to just strap them on here. No, I don't want to do that. What I want to do, and I have this out at the moment because I need to take this off. What I want to do is create a trapezoidal shape. So I'm going to find a point here that I'm happy with, and then a point up here, and then cut this into almost like it's going to look like a giant tip to a regular head screwdriver, like a blade head screwdriver. That's what it's going to end up looking like when I'm finished. And then I'm going to make sure it's wide enough so I can get, my goal is I see if I can get 3 on here. I don't know if I'll be able to get 3. I may only be able to get 2 on there. We're going to find that out when I'm done, because I don't know what I have to draw the lines. Once I have the lines drawn, I can do some layout and see what it will be. Because if the lines show me that it's not going to be what I want, I may shorten up the trapezoid so that it's a little more angular, so that I can get a full strike surface. So again, I want them touching. So if I can get 3 on my original line, I'll use that. And if I can't use 3, I'll shorten it up and then use 2. But those will become the strike heads, and I will not have to do anything to these edges, but I will grind a bevel on the tip, which is currently blunt. Now, these are actually from a combine style harvester. So this is just something, I found this at Tractor Supply, and they were on sale. Apparently they're probably not carrying this brand anymore. But I've seen these and used these in the past. I found some at an antique shop, which I used in a number of different projects, and I really like these things. They're very cool. And these are new, so they're going to be more consistent. The other ones I had were fairly inconsistent in overall structure. That might have been because they were handmade, or because they were from different batches or different companies, and I just happened to get a selection that I weren't quite matching. But these all match, and they're bright shiny silver, so I think that's cool. And I will be destroying this bevel, this image, when I'm finished. So I'm probably going to put the clean heads of the bolts on this side so they look a bit cleaner, and then stick the nuts on this side, which may require washers. We're going to find that out. I haven't decided what that's going to end up looking like. And this, combined this, is going to keep this fairly light, because these aren't all that heavy. And with the bolts and everything, this is going to be very fast, which is kind of what I want. Alrighty, so now I need to open this up, lay some lines on here, figure out if I can get 3 on there. I hope I can. And that will dictate where I start the angle and where I end the angle up here. So that's my goal. I would like to have the top being probably about that wide, because I think that balance-wise would look the best. Some of this is aesthetic, and I freely admit it. But I want to preserve some of the mass of the wood, because again, it's a fairly light wood. It's not real heavy. This is for a game. It's not for like a Polynesian war club. So this is very close to the shape of a Polynesian style war club. Oh, and I will also be drilling a hole for a lanyard when I'm finished. So yeah, this is going to come out, I think, pretty cool. So first thing I'm going to do is figure out some lines, and when I get those done, I will show you what it's going to look like. All right, so this is the rough layout. I ended up making it a shallower setup than I had originally thought of, because I forgot I have to take into account that I have to set them in far enough that I can get a decent hole in the wood so it's not too close to the edge. Because while the edge itself will be defended by the metal, I still have to be far enough in that I'm not splitting the wood out, and the nut and the bolt and everything are going to be firmly in the wood itself. So this is roughly what it's going to look like when I'm done, I think. I still have to, once I get the cuts, then I can do the fine tuning as far as the layout. So you can get 3 blades set up on each side like this, and they're touching, which is what I want them to do. I don't want them to have any gaps. And I may end up cutting this off. I'm not 100% sure. That's still up in the air, but I'll show you what they look like. Get out of the way. That probably made a loud clicking sound. So that's what the cuts are going to look like, I think, when I'm finished. And it's setting this up is a little tricky because it's not perfectly symmetrical. And again, this is just for a game, so that doesn't matter. This was never intended for a high precision appearance or function. It didn't have to. It's just designed to hit some kind of a ball. I don't know what kind of ball. I don't know what this game is. But yeah, I'm gonna make these 2 cuts with my 4.5-inch Trek Life circular saw, and then if I have to make this thing a cut off, I'll probably just use a hand saw because it's going to be a very short cut. It won't take a lot of energy, a lot of effort to do that, and this is not overly hard. It's just that making this with a hand saw would be very tedious, and I'm not that good. I'll be much better with the saw because it's got a laser. It makes it much easier for figuring out where a cut should be. So this, I'll end up using 6 of these, and that's what it's going to end up looking for, and I'm probably going to keep these. I might be able to find some use for them. I don't know. We'll see. Over the years, I've found numerous uses for things that I never thought I would. Scraps of metal that become tools, or washers, or points, or whatever. I found use for things over the years that it even amazed me. Okay, so now I'm going to do the cuts, and when the cuts are done, then I will do the final layout for everything. Mark the holes, and then start with the drilling. And I don't actually know what size those holes are yet, so I may have to open those up. And we're going to see about that in a moment, because I didn't look. I think that's under 1/4 inch, but I'm not positive. I will make them 1/4 inch before I do the layout, because I don't want to be marking. I want to mark the actual size holes I need through the hole itself. That would be ideal. There's going to be it's going to be difficult because I've got 6 loose blades, and I don't know how I may be able to figure out where to clamp them in place, because if I could clamp them in place, that would make the layout a lot easier, but I don't know if I can do that. It's a very complex situation. There's a lot of moving parts, literally. Okay, so time to do some cuts, and then to do some more layout for the blades themselves. Do you know how I said how much I really didn't want to cut this by hand? Well, after having gotten this as close to the edge of my table as possible, so that I could still have a bite so it's not going to move. This is actually here, the table's coming right to there, and you can see where that edge is. I can't get my saw in. I can get clearance on this end, but not on this end, and it will be much worse when I go to do the other side, because I won't have this waste piece to grip, because this will be gone. This makes me really wish I had a table saw. If I had a table saw, this would be really bloody simple. I would just set up the blade, set up the cut the way I wanted it, and whoop, and we'd be done. It'd be 2 cuts, and I'm finished. Not in this situation. And my bandsaw is a too narrow a blade. I couldn't do it by freehand on the bandsaw. That'd be very frustrating. So it looks like, as little as I want to, I'm going to be cutting this by hand. I am not happy about that situation. But this is at least going to be a better position for cutting than my other workbench, because over here it's actually 2 inches higher. And I mean, I can hold it in the vise, but that's even less of a comfortable cutting angle. And this is higher than this one. This is as low as I could actually get this thing to go with the type of legs that I have here. These were scrap legs that I got for nothing, so I'm kind of limited as to how short I can make this. I actually would have preferred if it was a little bit shorter, but I didn't want to lose those nice round feet because they make things much more stable. It gives me a nice firm positioning. And I could make micro adjustments with those. I didn't have to, but I could. So yeah, I had to put my wonderful saw away, which I'm not going to get to use, unfortunately. And darn it, and get my handsaw out and start cutting. Woohoo! Yeehaw! Cutting these things off wasn't fun, and I got to be brutally honest, it wasn't even. These sides are not the same. But I'm not going to worry about it because it still looks good as far as the whole layout goes. The center line's there. I have clamped these down and I have center punched. I will brighten up those marks with an awl so they'll have a little more distinction before I go about the process of drilling a hole. And I will be using a sacrificial block under here to hopefully avoid too much split out, because I would prefer not to have that. But you wouldn't see much of it, but I still would like to not have a lot of splinters. So this is how it's going to look, and I still haven't decided if this is coming off or not. It may come off, it may stay on. I basically have that where the teeth end here as my visual designation of where this flat section. That's where I start, because that gives me a decent amount of meat for these first two holes, and then of course it gets better as I go down because it widens. So these are all going to be very secure, and these will be secure enough, and it'll be enough meat there so that the nuts will be fully into the wood, which is what I want. And this side is going to be the side that has the slots like that when I'm finished. And I did have to open up all of these holes very slightly, and I didn't clamp them down. I just put a cut-resistant glove on my left hand, this one right here, and held them in place while I drilled them out very slowly and carefully, so that in case they did torque slightly on me, they weren't going to cut me. And they didn't torque at all. It was quite nice. And then I used this center punch to make the initial marks in those holes. And now I'm going to brighten them up with an awl so that I can go about drilling them out with a proper wood bit, which is right... Is that the proper wood bit? No, that's the proper wood bit right in there in my drill. That's my high-speed steel bit that I use for softer steels, and I have a single special bit that I use for hardened steel, rather, like a saw blade and stuff. These are not hardened steel. They don't really have to be. This is just designed to cut plant matter. It's not designed to cut something more vigorous than that. And once I get this drilled, the only thing I have left to do is put sharpened edges on the ends of this, and I'll just use that on my... I may just use my my grinding wheel. Now I'm going to do a bevel cut, because this is a bevel cut. This is a flat on this side, and it comes from the front. So I'll do a bevel cut on this end as well. So that has a probably about 45, maybe a little less, maybe a 60 degree angle cut edge on it. I'm not going to go for any kind of accuracy. So okay, take this apart, brighten up the holes, and then I brighten up on my marks, and then start drilling this for holes. And I'll have to put a mark here that I can put for a lanyard hole on this. And it's coming along. It's not too far from complete. So all the components are now here. I've got my bolts. I have to find bolts, because this is again, this has a distal taper, so the bolts I need here will be shorter than the bolts I need here, and I got to find that many bolts. And I have the nuts, and I have to go find my washers. I think they're in one of my fastener boxes. I have 2 fastener boxes I keep around so I can carry them quickly to wherever I need them. And I've treated this with a little tung oil, just to give it a actually linseed oil. Sorry, linseed oil on this, just to give it a bit of a nicer look, and a smidge of water protection. So now it's time to do the assembly, and we're done. Hey, I decided to forego the washers. I like that look more. It actually pulled the heads of these bolts into the wood slightly, because again, this isn't a particularly hard wood. It's fairly soft, and again, this isn't perfect. But the distance from here to here looks pretty good. You know, the distance here, I think the reason that this doesn't look even is because of the slope itself. Like the handle is not even, because my line is pretty darn good. and the spacing of the bolts is good from the center, and you look at the distance from the edge, it's nice and even. So I think the problem wasn't me. I think the problem was here. I think my layout lines were pretty darn good. But yeah, I really like the look at this. I don't know if you can see the grind lines. There's like a border, almost like a a watermark on there. It's not, but I mean, it just looks really cool. And it's not overly heavy, which is really nice. It's got a nice feel to it. I forgot a lanyard. I got to put a lanyard on. I got a piece of cord up there I can use. I got to put a lanyard on it. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to be taking pictures in here because it is way too dark outside right now. Because at the time it is filming, it is January 1st, 2022. And it is not bright outside because it's after 4 p.m. So I'm going to be taking pictures in here. It is what it is. Can't really do anything about the sun. So, I can get into the shop when I have time to get in the shop. Alrighty, so now I need to take some stills for this video, as well as my Instagram account and my DeviantArt account. And if you don't follow me on DeviantArt and Instagram, you should. My DeviantArt account is the permanent home of the images I have here, the stills. If you want to go look at them for reference, or if you want to use them for reference for an RPG game, or just like a sketch of your own, feel free. If you do something like that, link back to me. I'd really appreciate that. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, you're missing out on not only some weapon pictures, but I also talk about bargain things I find, weird stuff I find from yard sales and thrift stores, and things I don't buy because it's too weird and I don't need them, as well as cute cat pics, because at the time of this filming, we've had a new kitten for 2 weeks. His name is Dwight Henry Bones, and he is adorable. Though I don't think you're going to be seeing this video until 2023, because I've got quite a few of these in the can, and that's okay. So yeah, I am really happy with this, because I didn't have to cut this, nor did I have to worry about the distal taper. So the $1.50 I spent on this paddle was well worth my money. Because I could have just taken a board and done this, but it wouldn't have had quite that same gracile look. And I like the way this came out. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to call this see, it is kind of a Makana. Just call it a toothed war club. I don't know. Now I'm going to go show my wife, and she'll be very disturbed. And then I'll come back down and store these in the basement, because she's store this in the basement, because she's not going to want this one in the house. No. All right. So thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you'll come back for the next weapons build.